How's the royal family? I pray that everyone is doing well. Well, my royal family, let me go ahead and just read this. Anyone being investigated by the FBI is not qualified to be the president of the United States. If you agree with Trump, then it's time to impeach. Spread the word. Now, there is a Republican by the name of Justin Amash, and he said that Trump needs to be impeached. So we got a Republican that got some balls to speak truth. Now I have an article here, and I'm just going to read this first part, where Justin Amash of Michigan on Saturday became the first Republican lawmaker to say President Trump has engaged in impeachable conduct. In a series of tweets, Amash wrote he had read the full report by special counsel Robert Mueller and has concluded there is a threshold for impeachment. Under our Constitution, the president shall be removed from office on impeachment for the conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. Amash wrote Saturday, while high crimes and misdemeanors are not defined, the context implies conduct that violates the public trust. Also, it says here, Amash wrote that impeachable does not require probable cause and has been committed, but rather that simply requires a finding that an official has engaged in careless, abusive, corrupt, or otherwise dishonorable conduct. Now we know Trump is dishonorable to his fucking core. And this came out of his own mouth. And they even got these little dates down here when he said this, you know, because he has a tendency to repeat himself because he's limited with his vocabulary. So I got 2 videos. And let's get into it, my royal family. The first one is 2 minutes and 37 seconds.
Rank and officially calling for impeachment of President Trump. Congressman Justin Amash of Michigan has just posted a lengthy thread on Twitter, and let me read some of it to you. He writes, "Here are my principal conclusions. Attorney General Barr has deliberately misrepresented Mueller's report. President Trump has engaged in impeachable conduct. Partisanship has eroded our system of checks and balances. Few members of Congress have read the report." So he's weighing in on the Mueller report, which he says he went through in a very thorough fashion. And contrary to Barr's portrayal, Mueller's report reveals that President Trump engaged in specific actions and a pattern of behavior that meets the threshold for impeachment. He goes on to say, in fact, Mueller's report identifies multiple examples of conduct satisfying all the elements of obstruction of justice, and undoubtedly any person who is not the President of the United States would be indicted based on such evidence. Essie, is this significant since he is a Republican?
Sure. Justin Amash has not been afraid to sort of be on a lonely island criticizing the president since he took office. To what effect is questionable, because as one person, he really hasn't been able to muster a lot of support around his positions. Occasionally you'll have Ben Sass weigh in on a sort of similar line. But it's a good thing that a Republican is standing up and saying what he thinks is right, even though he must know he will not have the backing of the majority of his party.
Keith, he's going further than some Democrats.
Right.
He is, and I think it's important to understand how these procedures work. If you look back at the impeachment proceedings for Richard Nixon in the 1970s, a year before Nixon was impeached, 19% of Americans thought that Nixon should be impeached. Only 19%, after they'd already started the Watergate impeachment proceedings. It wasn't until a year into the hearings when the majority of Americans believed that Richard Nixon should be impeached. So Democrats who are sitting back and saying, oh, only 30 or 40% of Americans think that Trump should be impeached, that's a higher number than who thought thought that Nixon should be impeached when Nixon impeachment proceedings began in the 1970s. So if you have Republicans who are now saying that the president is engaged in impeachable, a Republican,
Yeah.
but you know there are others out there who are not elected who are saying the same thing.
Sure, yeah.
And as long as you know that that's the case, and you know that Donald Trump has violated the law, and you know that the consequences of not holding him accountable are that other presidents and this president will feel more emboldened, then I think this gives Democrats more ammunition to go after Trump and to hold him accountable.
All right. Now let's shut this down.
I can't do this.
Let's shut this down. Before I get into the other video, now, what I was thinking is you're supposed to be the president, the leader of this bullshit ass place, supposed to be patriotic. And being patriotic has a certain look and feel. Here, Trump is supposed to bleed red, white, and blue, but we know he bleed bullshit. We know that he's a con artist. Now, he's very demanding for people to be loyal to him and all of that. But basically, what Trump is saying, that I don't give a damn about this country. I do what the fuck I want to do. I'm running shit. And the lawmakers, I don't care what party they affiliated with, are you going to honor the Constitution? You know, it also makes me think when I said Barack Obama stepped in office, that the way the enemy would look at that White House is forever tainted. And we're seeing how chaotic and destructive Trump is. And he's doing a wonderful job tearing down Babylon. Now, the next video, it crosses over a little bit, but Justin Amash had put out a series of tweets, and she's going to read them and get a little bit deeper into it. This is pretty good video. It's a 4-minute, 11-second video.
The debate over impeachment seemed like a non-starter, given Republicans have circled the wagons around President Trump for 2+ years. But hours ago, a GOP lawmaker said President Trump has, in fact, engaged in impeachable conduct. Michigan Congressman Justin Amash, in a long Twitter thread today, wrote, "Here are my principal conclusions. Attorney General Barr has deliberately misrepresented Mueller's report. President Trump has engaged in impeachable conduct. Partisanship has eroded our system of checks and balances. Few members of Congress have read the report. I offer these conclusions only after having read Mueller's redacted report carefully and completely, having read or watched pertinent statements and testimony, and having discussed this matter with my staff, who thoroughly reviewed materials and provided me with further analysis." In comparing Barr's principal conclusions, congressional testimony, and other statements to Mueller's report, it is clear that Barr intended to mislead the public about Special Counsel Robert Mueller's analysis and findings. Barr's misrepresentations are significant but often subtle, frequently taking the form of sleight-of-hand qualifications or logical fallacies which he hopes people will not notice. Under our Constitution, the president shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. While high crimes and misdemeanors is not defined, the context implies conduct that violates the public trust. Contrary to Barr's portrayal, Mueller's report reveals that President Trump engaged in specific actions and a pattern of behavior that meet the threshold for impeachment. In fact, Mueller's report identifies multiple examples of conduct satisfying all the elements of obstruction and justice, and undoubtedly, any person who is not the President of the United States would be indicted based on such evidence. Impeachment, which is a special form of indictment, does not even require probable cause that a crime, for example, obstruction of justice, has been committed. It simply requires a finding that an official has engaged in careless, abusive, corrupt, or otherwise dishonorable conduct. While impeachment should be undertaken only in extraordinary circumstances, the risk we face in an environment of extreme partisanship is not that Congress will employ it as a remedy too often, but rather that Congress will employ it so rarely that it cannot deter misconduct. Our system of checks and balances relies on each branch's jealously guarding its powers and upholding its duties under our Constitution. When loyalty to a political party or to an individual trumps loyalty to the Constitution, the rule of law, the foundation of liberty, crumbles. We've witnessed members of Congress from both parties shift their views 180 degrees on the importance of character, on the principles of obstruction of justice, depending on whether they're discussing Bill Clinton or Donald Trump. Few members of Congress even read Mueller's report. Their minds were made up based on partisan affiliation, and it showed, with representatives and senators from both parties issuing definitive statements on the 448-page report's conclusions within just hours of its release. America's institutions depend on officials to uphold both the rules and spirit of our constitutional system, even when to do so is personally inconvenient or yields a politically unfavorable outcome. Our Constitution is brilliant and awesome. It deserves a government to match. Again, that was Justin Amash's full Twitter thread just hours ago. Here's the deal. Democrats like Nancy Pelosi have insisted that impeachment would require public support and the support of Republicans. Well, they don't have plural yet, but they do have one.
You know what? Now, the Democratic Party, they full of shit. See, one thing about them, they don't never want to be clear on what they do and don't support. They trying to get the massives. At least what I can respect about the Republicans, is fucked up as all of them is on both parties, is at least the Republicans is like, with this abortion thing, they letting theyself know how they feel about a particular subject. But the Democratic Party, they want to waffle because they worried about votes. They worried about making the correct business decision. And they trying to stay in favor with everyone except us. They just take our vote for granted. And what this dude was saying was true. It's about upholding the Constitution. And you're going to let this fucking idiot come in and fuck up the Constitution, and he don't know nothing about checks and balances and the three branches of government. He didn't go to Civics 1 and 2. I remember that very, very well. So we shall see what the Republicans going to do, and all about trying to get, that's some bullshit. When they said Nancy Pelosi talking about, well, you got to get, we got to get the feel of how people feel in America. Y'all never give a fuck about how people feel in America. You're full of shit. You're waffling and you're playing. And we all know that Trump is a motherfucking crook. And one thing that I noticed about him, he's still obstructing. He's still doing it. He don't know no other way, because he always want to control the narrative. What we are looking at is a motherfucker who has always got away with shit, even when he was a little boy. He had the most fucked up parents on the planet. But one thing that I do like is he's representing Esau to the fullest. We're seeing what they true leadership looks like. And these people are like they fucking froze. And you're going to let that idiot right there go against the unquote founding fathers, since he's supposed to be so patriotic? None of these motherfuckers don't care nothing about America. It ain't nothing but, Pelosi was right about this, special interests. They still don't think that they don't still bring briefcases full of money. These lobbyists, that's another name you can call it. It's one and the same. One and the same. And we shall see what happens. So the question that I asked the royal family, do you think they will impeach Trump? They got enough there. They got enough there. We already know that and stuff. But do you really think that they'll do it? Do you really think so? Because he's pushing the envelope. See, Trump is the type of motherfucker to take you to the edge of the cliff. And then you're going to have to make an unquote executive decision, or the right business decision. And these motherfuckers is also trying to make sure they worried about being being voted back into office too. These people don't do anything. All of them are liars. See, don't forget this, my royal family. It don't matter what party it is, and we know it's many parties out there. At the end of the day, whatever party it is, you know, like they'll throw that shit out there like liberals. Okay, when they talk about people that are liberals, they still is going to uphold white supremacy. Don't be fooled by that. You know, see, the way the Democratic and the Republican Party been playing is good cop, bad cop, and so we just figured, oh, the Republicans, they're the good cops. No, all they have done is used us, and they have used black women and black men. Now you'll see the face mainly of black women, but black men are voting just at the exact percentage rate for the Republican Party, just like the black woman. That's nothing more than to you know, lift up the black woman and make her feel like she's more superior to her man. All these little tactics that they play, I know how they get down. So we shall see how this go. Do they got the balls to do it? You know, are they really going to do it? Now, the thing that I do look at is the timing of things. You know, we're pretty much in an election season, you know, and is it cost effective to do it? You know, they waste the taxpayers' money on all kind of shit. I think they probably spent 30 or 40 million alone just on the Mueller report, you know. So Trump is really draining the swamp. Him and his family are there doing what they do. The first broke-ass president. And you see what he raised? A house full of crooks. They are sucking off America's tit. This motherfucker, he on food stamps. He might as well whip out an EBT card. All of that. I just have taken Joel over here dragging Trump, you know. But personally, I don't think they'll really do anything. They may look like they going through the motions, and the most I think they probably will do is these people that are not honoring these subpoenas is start locking them up to get to Trump like you can be touched. But remember, the shadow government is benefiting from this motherfucker. And when they get tired of him, they will deal with him accordingly. But the ultimate say is Yah. And it is what it is. There's so many different ways that we can look at this. So anyway, my royal family, render your voice with your beautiful divine words. And as always, my royal family, I thank you for your love. I thank you for your support. And with that said, Ashe.